Hey guys, Lizardlea here for day 68 of 4 Heavenly Beasts. So there is the progress from day 67, which is nothing. I still have the needle in it. I need to take that out and take a picture. I'm really bitter about this. Like, so bitter about it. But it's been almost a week at this point since I worked on it, so it's a thing now. I'm always gonna hate day 67. That's just how it is. Okay, I'm kind of sleepy, but I'm gonna get more than a freaking hour and a half, or I'm gonna be pissed. No, then I'm just gonna combine them at that point and delete this video. Ooh, I sound weird today. Got a wheeze, what the heck? Asthma.
Okay, so it was like literally months ago at this point. We watched the movie Pat Labor, which is an anime, and let's see, how did I describe it? Nothing was in layman's terms. Too much technobabble, yes, that is exactly what I said. It's robots, and this is where David's going to take over.
Because I have to, not because I want to.
You love this movie.
I do.
Are you kidding me?
But I
This
wanted
is
you
also
to
your
love
part.
this movie. So first of all, I watched this movie as a kid, and then I would watch it again and again growing older, and, you know, it's one of those things that, as a child, it was like, cool, robots, and I don't really get what's going on, and as a teenager, it was like, I still don't get what's going on, and I'm trying to understand it, and it's not because of the technobabble, it's also because it's not a simple, well, it's a fairly simple plot, but to, like, a teenager, it's just like the simple plots are like, well, then the Power Rangers hit the guy with the sword or whatever. It was complicated. So it's the first of two movies made by, I believe, is this one Satoshi Kon? It doesn't matter. And it's after an anime series, which I thought they didn't reference the anime series maybe as much as they do. I thought it explained a lot of things a lot better. But no, it's really just, well, it's not poorly explained, but it's definitely context clues, and since you were already lost in the technobabble, that didn't help.
I mean, I feel like the plot itself I followed and understood.
What happened?
God, it's literally been months.
It has been.
Let's see. I believe we started with a guy and a girl. I think the guy outranked her? Or maybe they were just friends. I don't remember. This is going to be so much worse than the Pride and Prejudice
I know. There's no Judi
narration. So they're going to be assigned robots, or they've already been assigned robots. I believe, I don't think this happens until later, but we learned that their robots have not been upgraded with the software that all of the other ones have, and this software is like making them go crazy, or that like they control themselves and they're not making, you know, good humanitarian decisions. Am I remembering right?
It's taking over. Yeah, you're basically right.
They're
the software's taking
the
over.
The software's making them go crazy, but they haven't
just
had theirs upgraded yet.
Yes.
And I think it was because like one of them didn't want it, or they wanted to be out in the robot when it was supposed to be happening. Like they did something that ensured it didn't happen, but I don't remember if it was because they were against the software or if it was because they were just too excited to be in the robot. Am I going to get an answer one way or the other, or do you not remember?
The short answer is you're not technically right, but you're close enough that the details don't matter.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of weird, like, that stuff matters. Like, that's way more granular than I was expecting you to go on, like, the why they didn't get their robots upgraded. You just need to know they didn't get their robots upgraded.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I appreciate the effort.
I think this is before we learn about the software upgrade, and this is when we start to learn that the robots are going crazy after said software upgrade. There's a guy in a robot, and he's like trying to I don't know, clean up the city or
He's
help
a
out,
construction
basically.
bot,
It
yeah.
is construction, okay. And then he completely loses control of the robot, and it starts just trashing the city, like literally trashing. It's crushing cars, buildings. It's a robot. It's a huge robot at that. And then I don't remember if it's the two we started with or one of them, but somebody comes out and
Oda.
Oda? I don't remember a single person's name in this movie. I don't know why you
Yeah.
thought I would. I've seen it
No.
once and it was months ago.
Oda's great. Continue.
Sure, did I like Oda?
Sort of.
Hmm.
Oda's
Was Oda
Oda's
the
good
man
for-
or the woman? I literally...
He is a man. He's neither of the two characters you're
Oh,
thinking of.
great.
He's
That's
the
helpful.
one who constantly overreacts, tends to get very, very angry, and in this particular case causes himself some problems.
So somebody goes out there, and I think at some point the driver of the one that's going crazy gets knocked out, and somebody in another robot is like, oh my gosh, no, this robot's doing it itself. The driver, the controller, whatever, is not awake. Or maybe they knock him out and then it continues and that's how they figure it out. Either way, doesn't matter. He's not in control. What?
Go ahead.
Okay, if I'm doing horribly, you have to say something because
You're not doing horribly. I'll say something you're doing
you're
horribly.
making faces at me.
Yes, I'm enjoying judging you. You're doing very well.
Better than you did in Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, for now-ish. Like if I told you to name cast members, not even
Oh, God,
name,
no, nothing.
describe cast
See,
members.
but we watched Pride and Prejudice like a week before we did the review. It's literally
So
been
Judy
months.
Dench gets on her broom and
That's
flies
not even
over
the
to the soup
character's name.
meeting.
Nope.
Yeah, but if I even told you to describe characters, you couldn't.
No.
Yeah, I could describe
Months.
Judy.
It's been months.
Yeah, I can still tell you that Judi Dench was a rich old lady, that she had a daughter. No, wait. There's a young daughter. She factors into this because she's supposed to marry Darcy. No, it's his sister. He has a younger sister. Right? She's cute.
Georgiana?
His sister.
no,
Cool. Now you're back on trial. Go.
I still have to tell you, Judi Dench, her daughter was sickly and was supposed to marry Darcy.
Right, there were
so you
two daughters.
retconned that wrong. You
Yes.
had it and then you lost it.
Yes.
Anyways, all right. So they get a hold of that robot, and I think I remember a scene. I want to say it was the girl, but I honestly don't know. Somebody gets into like a control room, and they see on the screen that like everything is turning red.
Babel.
I thought it was Babel.
Babel, yeah.
Okay. And that's like the software upgrade,
It's actually
trying
the
to go
main
into
character,
everything.
The boy.
What?
It's the boy.
Oh, it's the boy. Okay,
Yeah,
so
up
he's
to
the
you.
one who finds it.
Yes, because he's the son of the guy who owns the company. Doesn't matter. Continue.
Isn't he dead?
Different guy.
Different guy. Okay.
That's one of the parts where I thought they explained it better in the movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's really only explained in the anime, which I've never even seen. But it's kind of not context clues. It's like one or two throwaway lines in the anime where they're like, oh yeah, he's the son of the owner of blah 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 heavy industries, and so that's how he can get access to that computer, is because he's been slumming it with the police force, and him and his dad don't get along, but he knows enough people there who work there that he gets some alone time on the mainframe. None of that matters for the purposes of this discussion, but I just figured I'd point that out. The guy you're thinking of who was dead,
That was the one who created it, right?
who created the program that's...
Because he was upset or something. Like, he genuinely wanted it to destroy humanity, didn't he? Or no? It got
Yes,
corrupted?
he did.
Okay, he did. I'm not crazy.
Well, again, he called it Babel because the Tower of Babel myth of, humanity becoming greedy and blah, 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 and they climbed up to the top of the tower, and then God smacked them down and scattered them to the winds, and basically the idea of, like, we have all this...
Language is born. Now you can't understand everyone.
Yeah. But just the idea that he did not like how society was going. And, yes, of note, he kills himself at the start of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He jumps off the ark.
There's a detective going
Yes.
around trying to find out why he killed himself? Was that it? Or...
Well,
I don't remember what
not
he said.
exactly.
He kept going through these abandoned places because the guy
Yes.
who created it was constantly moving.
Yes.
So he was trying to get clues as to why he created the robot software or something.
Well, so here's the thing: you've forgotten the opening scene of the movie, which
Yeah,
has nothing to do with any of the city stuff. It's a military robot out in the middle of nowhere getting attacked by a bunch of other military robots and people, and them shooting the hell out of it, and then them popping open the canopy,
And it's empty.
and it's empty. And that's the big. So they know pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah.
There's already politics in motion of people have already figured out that something's wrong.
Yeah, but I
it's,
thot it was kind of hush hush. I didn't.
because
think
it's a. It
not
would be as
everyone
if
knows
like.
about it.
Well, it would be sort of like as if, like in this day and age, having a Windows computer meant that the computer could turn on and do whatever it wanted. But worse, if your computer was ever on the same Wi-Fi in the same building as your car, it could also control your car. Like it's one of those sorts of situations, and they're trying to figure it out before it becomes public / figure out how bad it is, because they see it and they're like, oh, we just ripped it all out, and then they find out later, oh, that's not enough. So including the main character's unupgraded robots, that's actually still a problem even for those. But we'll get to that later. So either way, yeah, there's an A plot and a B plot. The A plot is basically all the police people. I'm not going to go through all their names, but all you need to know is there's main guy and main girl, as you identified, and then there's kind of older guy and older girl who are the heads of the department, so to speak, like the sergeant and the lieutenant or something like that. I'm probably getting those wrong, but close enough. And they're all trying to unravel, like, what do we do? At the same time, though, they've got this detective team who's also part of the main cast, who are wandering around following up on this guy's life to try and figure out what exactly he did and how they can stop it and what's triggering it. Because the thing that they've realized is it's definitely basically in every single robot, but they seem to go rampant randomly. They can't tell why they're going nuts. Like, why aren't they all already going nuts? What's going on? And they can't tell if pulling out the software will work. So that's their mission, is to try and figure out what the hell's going on and if they can stop it. And yeah, I'll spoil even more of it. So for the record, if you've never watched Pat Labor and you like anime, do it. It's one of the best movies out there, and the sequel's phenomenal too. And one day I'll inflict that on you.
Depending on how you feel about Technobabble, I wouldn't recommend it.
I think it's not as bad as you received it, but I also don't think you.
I don't think it was meant for me. Like, robots
Well,
aren't
you're also
that
tired.
exciting to me.
There's a couple of conflicting issues here, but it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Point is, they find out that at the same time, they're building this giant thing called the Ark.
The tower, right?
The
It's a
Ark.
huge- Yes, but it was a literal tower, wasn't
It's
it?
so much more than a tower. It's basically a false island that's the size of a skyscraper, like, or as tall as a skyscraper and like huge, like, literally several square miles or something. Yeah.
I remember.
So
I
they
made a
realize
reaction of what happens at the end.
they realize that the problem with the Ark is that what's setting off these robots is resonant frequencies from nearby structures, skyscrapers, bridges, and things like that. That's where the most rampant robots have been. And it clicks to them that the Ark is designed such that in a large enough windstorm, typhoon, or hurricane, it will spread that resonant frequency an incredible amount of distance and basically trigger all the robots in Japan at once to go crazy. Possibly even farther than that, I forget. And they're like, well, he wouldn't have known about the storm. And then they realize he basically killed himself once he got confirmation from the weather reporting that, like, yep, a grade 5 typhoon is coming. And so he was like, checkmate world, I'm out.
Yep.
And then there's like a ghost thing with the raven and all that sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, there's somebody up there, they're moving. And they get up there and they're like, oh, it's just birds.
Yeah, because there's a bird motif throughout the whole thing. And then finally there's the fact that they, yes, assault the Ark because it's got a whole bunch of rampant robots on it trying to protect it, so they can't stop it. And they have to run in, defeat all the enemy robots, and then collapse the entire Ark in a safe manner because it's a giant building, and, save Japan / the world, I forget. So yeah, it's a very, very good movie. Both Pat Labor movies are very good political dramas. They speak way beyond, like, robots fighting. Like, the core idea of Pat Labor is just like a sort of futuristic world where, like, okay, there's mecha, but they're not, flying around shooting laser swords and weapons of war. They're used as construction devices and, of course, police enforcement, because, you know, for the same reason that if somebody were to take a heavy construction bulldozer and try to, say, I don't know, drive it down the California freeway like someone did, was it the freeway? Whatever. He drove it through some city. You know, there's a lack of option to stop that. Now, not many people can take construction machines to do that, but obviously these are weapons of war and weapons of policing and weapons of this and of that, because robots are cool. And so them being so... The director, I think, who did this one, and I believe the next one, let me just double check, because if so, it makes a lot more sense. But he's known, his name is Satoshi Kon, and he's known for doing really, really, really good movies. Yeah, he's very ambitious. Oh no, this one's Oshi. So this one is a different one. It's the second one that was done by Satoshi Kon, right? I'm not crazy. It's been a while. Nope, I'm just completely wrong. It's someone else entirely. I'm nuts.
What has Satoshi Kon done? Because you've said his name a billion times at this
Okay.
point.
Oh no, I've got them mixed. Yeah. Okay. So Oshi did Angel's Egg. Satoshi Kon did, and Jinro. Okay. Yeah. And Satoshi Kon did Paprika and a bunch of other.
Oh, the depressing ones?
Yes.
Oh, the blue movies or whatever?
Paprika, Perfect Blue,
Yeah,
Millennium
Blue.
Actress,
There we
Tokyo
go.
Godfathers, Paranoia Agent. Yeah. They both have somewhat similar serious styles, although Kon is way more mind-bending and weird, and so but Angel Egg is a trip, and so I sometimes mix the two. My bad. Either way, yeah, and for the record, this is the guy who did Ghost in the Shell, not just Angel's Egg, which is, like, you know, one of the seminal works of anime and cyberpunk and all that, even though I don't like it that much. Anyways.
I didn't finish it. Although, no, wait, actually, my parents might have bought me the second one, and then I was just, like, so lost, and maybe that's why I didn't finish
Ghost
it.
in the Shell?
Yes.
It's,
That's not what we're talking about. Continue with Pat Lieber.
I'll just say everything that's cool about Ghost in the Shell, the movie, it was cool because it was the first thing that did it. So seeing it now, it's like, well, yeah, this is just standard cyberpunk. It's not even that interesting, but for most people, it's the first time they've ever seen anything like that. Anyways, Pat Lieber, yeah, done by the same guy who did Ghost in the Shell, did an incredible job with it. Beautiful movie, very well done. Not for everyone, as this is demonstrated. It's one of my favorites. It's like childhood defining for me, along with its sequel. So yeah. Want to move on?
Unless you had something else you wanted to talk about for the movie.
Nope.
I talked about what I remember.
Yep.
Like, I think, was the detective my favorite in the end?
He was one of them.
My favorite character died, right?
No.
No?
No.
It's one of the few movies where... See?
Yeah, that's how I knew you wouldn't like it. You laugh, but like I've noticed the few movies that you have really not enjoyed, often your favorite character in them lives.
Such BS.
You don't like Cowboy Bebop, your favorite character lived.
Okay, even if he had died, I just didn't like that movie or show.
Right, but that's my point. He lived, and therefore you don't like it. It's just it's.
I didn't like a single episode.
Doesn't matter. He lived. That's why.
It was,
If he died, it would have gone fine. They would have been better
no,
episodes.
if my Valentine had died, I might have been happy. If she had just died really early on, might have liked that.
This is not a fan.
I hated her. I hated her the entire show. I liked Jet,
Yep, your favorite.
Ein,
Also survived.
and the redhead, the engineer. Ed. There we go.
Anyhow.
And that was it. I didn't like anyone else on that show.
Moving on.
Yes.
Chainsaw Man. Whoa.
That was a good show. Jujutsu Kaisen is still infinitely better, just because that one, like, you know, is in my top 3 now. But Chainsaw Man was really good. Horrifically gory, but not always. Like, some of their instances of, you know, what would normally be gore was not gory at all. Like, I don't want to, like, spoil it.
Want me to take a stab?
Yes, do your thing. And then we
So,
can go to spoilers later.
Chainsaw Man, I'm going to start with, content warning from hell here. It's incredibly violent. It can be incredibly gross. It can be incredibly childish or immature.
Oh, that's
But
true.
it also does all of these things in service of the plot, not in pandering. Like, there are major reasons why certain scenes happen, when in any other anime you'd be like, "Gee, we're doing this." In this one, it hasn't totally paid off yet, but it starts to by the end of season 1, and you see like, oh, they're actually using this as a real plot point, and given the context of the main character, it makes sense. So with that said, the main character is... I cannot remember his name. I don't care. The main character is this...
You read the manga!
I know. Is this poor boy. He's Chainsaw Man. Who,
he has a name!
Whose father killed himself, and he lives in Japan. And because his father killed himself, all of his father's debts passed to him, because his father's debts were to the mob. The mob basically tells the kid, you need to come up with money for us, we don't care how, and if you don't, we're going to sell your organs after we kill you.
His name's Denji, by the way.
Denji, that's right. So, I remember like everyone else. Denji is youngish, and it's been implied that like in this world there are things called devils. You don't get the full explanation of devils right away, but it's not a huge spoiler. Let me quickly, before I spoil anything at all, say you should watch this anime if you can tolerate these things and you like anime at all. And even if you don't necessarily like anime, if you can tolerate these things, it's worth a shot. You might want to wait until another season or two are out, but having read the manga, I think it is an amazing, like it is a one-of-a-kind story in many, many ways. And it's way more ambitious than a lot of stuff out there. It's maybe not as good as Evangelion as far as like pure art goes, but it's nice to see someone doing something different and trying different things and really having fun with it. Anyways, off to mild into major spoilers. Devils are a thing that exists. Basically, there's a devil for everything that humans are afraid of. So if you're afraid of Scotch tape, well, there's a Scotch tape devil there somewhere. But not many people are afraid of Scotch tape, so it's going to be
Really
pretty
weak.
Whereas the knife devil would be much more dangerous because lots of people are afraid of getting stabbed and things like that. So that's the rough logic this works on. And they are sentient, dangerous beings. And their power depends on how dangerous and... Well, I think not how dangerous they are, more how afraid of humanity they are. Or
how afraid humanity is of them.
Yes, that.
Like, yeah, I'd be terrified of a gun more than a rock.
Right.
I don't want to be beaten to death with a rock, so I'm still scared of that.
Well,
But gun, yeah.
I know things you don't, so all I can say is it's concept-based. Anyways, with that said, there's a little devil that he finds and he hunts other devils with, named Pochita.
And he looks like a puppy.
He's a puppy with a chainsaw sticking out of his head with a handle on him.
Yeah.
So he grabs him and like revs his tail and then cuts devils apart. Like the strawberry devil, which I think is one of the first ones he kills.
Oh, because people are allergic.
Or something. Who knows? I don't think they give any thought to it. I think they just thought it would be funny to have a giant strawberry. And so he kills it. And he manages to kill a bunch of others, and he's kind of paying off his debts when all of a sudden it turns out that the mob bosses that he's working for are, of course, like never going to let him pay off his debts. But even worse, they've been taken over by a devil because they tried to sell. Because you can make deals with devils. You can sell parts of your body and other things that are a little more esoteric / conceptual, like years of your life, or your sense of smell, or your feelings, or whatnot, to get their power. So these mobsters have sold their power to this devil, but the devil betrayed them. And the mobsters and the devil straight up murder Denji. Like, it's not even a question. It's a very cool scene because it's like, oh, this is the protagonist. And they just murder the hell out of him. He's 120% dead.
Dead.
But in that time, before he died, he spends like his night enjoying a single slice of bread with Pochita. And he's like, yeah, I would one day like to live all my dreams of like, having jam with my bread. Like really, really low level dreams because his life has been utter hell every day that he can remember. He's never had anything. So he dies miserable. The end. No. Then Pochita basically says, I'll make a deal with you. I will save your life, but you have to live your dreams. And if you don't, you will die. And, the kid basically says, I'm dead. And doesn't say anything. But essentially the deal is struck. And Pochita fuses with his heart, and he is now the Chainsaw Man. So Pochita's gone, essentially, and he can pull a chainsaw out of his chest And
well, not a chainsaw.
the ripcord.
Yeah.
And the chainsaws will sprout from his hands and his forehead, and to
It's
be
incredibly painful.
yes, they actually are ripping out of his body, Wolverine style. This
Yeah.
isn't just magic. Oh, my hands magically separate. Like, nope, it is painful.
Isn't that more Wolverine style from the comics? Because in the movies, they're just like, eh.
Well, no, he even says it hurts in the movies. He just doesn't talk about it because, like, the whole point of Wolverine is he doesn't care because he's Wolverine and he's gotten
True.
used to being miserable.
And his healing factor's through the roof.
Yeah.
All right, continue.
So either way, yeah, he.
I mean, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Like when the chainsaws come out, there's blood everywhere.
First his, and then just about everyone else's.
Else's, yes.
So shortly after this, he defeats the devil, and this woman shows up named
Makima?
Makima. I was like, I have a lot of inappropriate nicknames for her that I'm aware of, but I couldn't remember her real name.
On my channel.
Yeah. Makima. Makima sees him and basically says, you're a devil. I'm part of the group of the government that's supposed to kill devils. However, since you are a half human, half devil, it's like a really rare thing. You can work for us until you die, killing devils, but if you ever betray us or stray at all, we'll kill you.
Yep.
And she is weird.
Yeah.
Is I think the best way I can put it right now. I would have you. I'll have you talk about her later because I know things that you don't, and it's hard for me. I don't want to like stumble into spoilers.
No, you're good.
So either way, he joins, and thus begins his, kind of the standard protagonist buildup of, oh, you're going to get a crew and friends and buddies. But it's done a little bit differently, including a solid, so he meets his first partner, and that ends in him kicking that man in the fork 7 or 8 times consecutively.
Fork? I know what you mean, but
I'm
I've never
just
heard it
being
called
polite
that.
about that, after promising that's what he'd do if he was in a fight.
That's true.
Yes.
His name is Aki, by the
Aki,
way.
yes.
He's my favorite. I love Aki so much.
Yep, Aki's your favorite. And,
So don't, pick a different favorite, you guys. We all know what happens to my favorite characters.
yes.
I haven't seen it happen yet, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna.
Liz is already
Continue.
aware of some of the problems he has in the Surviving Longer Brigade. Yeah.
Don't remind
So
me.
Aki is this guy who fights with a cursed sword, who, helps, they basically start out hating each other's guts. And then introduced shortly thereafter is a ghoul, I believe they call them. What do they call them? What's Power?
I thought she was also a half devil.
She is not. She is the other type of thing that's more common.
It didn't open properly. I don't know what's going on.
Liz is great at this. Power is the next character that's introduced. Well, not the next, but the next major character who's introduced that I can remember. And she is a ghoul or something, which is basically...
Blood fiend.
A fiend, yes, there's the word we wanted. She's a fiend, which means she's taken a dead human body and she's possessed it, but she's a devil. She's the devil of blood. And her name is Power, because screw you.
I hated her at first. Y'all, she's my second favorite.
this story does really good things with that kind of vibe of like, oh my god, I hate all these characters. Like, oh my god, these broken misfit morons are starting to become real people. I don't hate them all.
Oh yeah, I hated Aki at first too,
Yeah,
didn't I? Like,
yeah.
I literally hated everybody at some point in the story, I think.
Yes.
Other than Pochita. Because the little chainsaw is so cute.
Power
He's so
is
precious.
amazing.
She's special.
She's special, alright. She is gross at first, but she is also just incredibly fun and incredibly well written. And the less I say, the better, because experiencing Power is its own trip. And so these misfits, along with a couple of others who are part of the group, who I'm not even going to go into because there's way too much, but they all get fleshed out pretty well, basically start going off and killing devils. It is around this time that you find out that the main arc is they're going to try and find and or kill the gun devil, because Aki wants to kill the gun devil and Denji wants to not die and Power is along for the ride.
Oh yeah.
The gun devil appeared for like 10 seconds years ago and killed several million people. Like, it is an extreme force of death, and at this point you don't even know what it looks like other than the fact that I've spoiled it and you might remember that. But in the anime, it hasn't been shown. Yeah.
Correct.
And it, showed up and like millions of people died, gazillions of damage was done, and then it disappeared. And so nobody knows why or how or what the heck happened, but they're trying to collect devils to get more power so they can fight the gun devil or find pieces of the gun devil because it makes other devils more powerful, so they can stop that and find the gun devil and kill the gun devil.
Well, I thought finding pieces of the gun devil also, like, they started to attract one
Yes.
another. So once it's big enough, they can actually find the gun devil himself.
Yes, that's also a thing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of their main goal, is this incredibly dangerous gun devil. That is, like, it appears insurmountable, because the one thing this show does super well is everything is super lethal. This is not Dragon Ball Z, where people who can break mountains are taking punches to the chin every 5 seconds and then getting up and doing it back to their opponent. Like, people get wrecked, and they get wrecked fast. Fights are brutal, violent, and lethal. And
It's awesome.
it's very, very well done. The end of season 1 is just starting to ramp up into that, like, crescendo, because there's, like, the initial fights of, like, oh, haha, we're kind of a bunch of misfits and we're really learning more about the characters, and then there's another fight that's like, oh, haha, you're all going to have to get to know each other because you're in a existential nightmare, and what are you going to do about it? And Denji's problem-solving skills are excellent in this regard. Gotta admire him. And then
It is 8 o'clock.
oh, I thought
I will need to take my meds soon.
me too, crazy Russian woman. But they ultimately, you see a lot of, like, just how brutal these fights can be, and it's really different and well done, and it keeps the threat crazy, because 1 minute there's a group of people attacking another group of people, and suddenly half of them are dead, but then they turn around and, like, do a bunch of damage to their enemies, and then all of a sudden the enemies start dying, and you start feeling bad for the bad guys, and you're not even sure if they're the bad guys anymore. Like, it's very, very well done, and there's a whole lot of, oh my god, what the hell's going on? Who are these people? And while there's a lot of wacky, weird stuff along the way, it sticks the hell out of the landing. I will tell you right now, as someone who's finished the manga, or at least the first arc, there was basically, he wasn't sure if he was going to get more, so he wrote 100 chapters, 200 chapters, something like that, as a complete story, and that was the end. And there's some things that aren't wrapped up at that point, but if you end it there, it's still good, and I think that was amazing. The second arc has started. I haven't read or spoiled anything about it, but I've heard good things from people so far. So highly, 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 highly recommend The Man at the Chainsaws. Did you like it?
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Like I said, it's really high on my list.
For
It
posterity's sake,
does not outrank Jujutsu Kaisen or Brotherhood, obviously.
tell me what you think of the various characters that we've mentioned. So that would be Denji, Power, Aki, and Makima.
So Denji, at the start, I think when he was immediately first introduced, I was annoyed because he just seemed like an archetype or something. Like, I was
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, he's...
Never seen this before.
Yeah. And then, one of the he gave them his eye.
Yes, he gave them.
Like, and a kidney or something? Like,
His eye and his kidney, yeah, that sounds
he
right.
gave up things that I was like, oh dang, like, I don't know if I could do that. Like, he did it for, money to try and pay off the mob people, to pay off his dad's debt. And, he'd go and get a sandwich, and he'd share it with Pochita, and I think I cried at one of the scenes, like, when he was sharing food with him, because I was just like, oh my goodness, like, he's not, he's more than just the archetype that I initially thought he was. He's an actual person, and he's a very naive, immature person, because he just hasn't lived his life. Like, personally, I don't think I was fully myself until 30, or at least, late 20s. And he's, 18 at the start of the show? 17?
Younger, I think.
Okay, he's a baby, alright? He's a baby. And so I'm kind of just like, I can fully understand how someone in their late teens, early 20s just doesn't know, like, anything about the world.
16.
16. 14. Oh my gosh, that makes it so much worse. I learned to love him until he met Makima. And he had his first crush. And like, okay, yes, I get it. I remember what I was like when I had my first crushes. I was a freaking idiot. I was a loser. I was stupid. I reflect. If I could remember it really well, I'd be embarrassed. I guarantee it. But I don't remember it very well, so that's nice. But speaking of Makima, I hated her because she understood that he, had never met a woman, basically. That he did not know girls. And she called him a dog, and she treats him like a dog. And because he doesn't know any better, he's cool with it, and he's happy about it. And I'm just like, no, you deserve better. Like, no. So, yeah. Her powers, I don't want to spoil, but, so interesting. Like, I want to learn more about her powers.
To quickly touch on that while you bring it up, I glossed over it a bit earlier, but yeah, lots of these, like for example, Aki's sword, he made a deal with a devil to get that sword.
Mm-hmm.
And so later on, he decides he needs another devil, so he gives something else up for that devil's power. And so we don't know what devils Makima has made a deal with, and you see some of her powers, and you're like, which devil could that be? What the hell's going on? What was that? So, yeah.
That is one of the things I think is super interesting. Like, you might know what someone has given up. You might know what powers this devil is giving them. That doesn't mean you know what kind of devil they have. Like, and it was a thing at the dinner scene where they're like, I'm not going to tell you what devil I made a deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so cool. Like, I want to say, what was it? The fox demon is one of the most popular for people to make deals with.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I love foxes. But yeah, if I saw one out in the wild, I wouldn't want to go up to it and pet it. I wouldn't want to get mauled by a fox. But I don't remember if they showed us what the fox's power was. But so interesting. I loved him. Aki. Aki's my favorite. He has, doesn't he have a deal with 3 different devils? He's got the sword. He's got the
Fox.
Does he do this for it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he makes the fox things with his hands to summon the fox. I love that. And then you see him make a deal with another one later on. Loved all of that. Like, his progression, because when we first met him, I was so annoyed, especially because he was really mean to Denji. But I also hated Denji at that point, so I was just like, ugh, I'm gonna hate this show, David, what's wrong with you? Like, I gave him a lot of crap for a couple episodes. It's worth it, you gotta stick it out. But yeah, no, Aki, like, I'm so invested in him that I almost don't want to continue because he's my favorite. He's gonna die, that's just my track record. I'm liking the show. We established in this video that if I like a show, my favorite has to die. So Aki has to die.
There is a...
Unless there's an immortality devil that'll keep him alive forever.
There are also plot reasons that Liz is already aware of that make it very unlikely for Aki to survive all this.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into the spoilers, but
Yeah.
are we supposed to now?
No, we'll skip it. It's a good enough
You've
show, people
mentioned
should
it
watch
twice.
it. I know.
Pochita, super cute. I mean, like, does he exist inside Denji? Like, is that... Like, can they communicate? I don't remember.
From what you've seen, no. From what I remember, maybe.
Maybe, okay. And then Power. Power, at first, annoyed the heck out of me, and I wanted to be done with her. And then she stuck around for a couple more episodes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love Power. Like, I want more power! Like, does she talk in the third person? I don't remember.
I think so, frequently.
She talks in a weird way. Like,
She's
it's so endearing.
Her answers to questions are phenomenal.
Absolutely.
She's great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that I wanted to get into. So, I'm not going to mention names, but spoilers from here on out. When I was talking earlier about there being like a scene that would normally be gory but is now not, there's a character, the devil they've made a deal with. They are able to like give up a limb in order to get more power, kind of. I don't know the right way to put this, especially without spoilers. But they reach their arm out, and I don't remember if they have to say that they're giving up their arm or if they just have to have the intent in their head and the devil gets that.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both, okay. But, and the way they drew this, I almost said filmed this. They put their arm out, and then it literally just disappears. And they have a shirt sleeve, and the sleeve just droops down. And so me, person who likes the Saw movies, I cringed and I was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be so much blood because your arm, there's a major artery there. Like, there's going to be a lot of blood. There was no blood whatsoever, which literally shocked me. I think to the point that I made you rewind it because I was like, what? What? She's not bleeding? What? Like, it was so insane. And like, to this day, I think that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Because it's just like, that's not something you ever see. Like, not all people are like me and are into the blood stuff. Okay, I'm not into it, but like, not everybody enjoys it.
Mm-hmm.
There are people like Courtney who are absolutely terrified of it or disgusted by it, etc., etc. But it's still generally the thing you put in an action anime. Like, you have to show that people are getting hurt and there are consequences.
And it's not like this is the anime that's like, well, we don't want to cross a line. Like, they're already well past the line.
Oh yeah, people have literally had limbs chopped off.
Yeah.
Like, it's tons of blood and gore. So the fact that they got to a point where there was none, I was in a state of shock for a minute, and I was kind of like, oh, they'll get the arm back, right? And then I realized, like, no, they made a deal with the devil. They will never get that arm back. It's not going to kill them, because, like, it's like a clean cut, or it's essentially healed over already, instantaneously. But, like, oh my god, it was so cool! I thought that was one of the coolest things we've seen in an anime in a while. Like, the only thing I can think of that I was even more excited about was the clapping power in Jujutsu Kaisen. That whole fight,
So
I was so hyped that entire fight because it kept amping up.
Mhm.
And that's it. I can't think of anything else we've seen recently that I was just that in awe of that I want to talk about it specifically. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So things like this are why I finished the manga, because I was like, okay, this is a little weird, but I'm like, oh, that's cool, and then like more and more. There is a scene that will happen in season 2 or 3, assuming this continues to get funding, which I'm sure it will.
Should.
It absolutely
Season
should.
1
Mappa's
was.
not going to like drop the ball or anything. They're not going to pull One Punch Man and get a different studio, I think. They could quite possibly be one of my favorite. Like, it's already one of my favorite scenes in media, and since like
The one with the arm disappearing?
no,
Or-
there's a scene you haven't seen in the manga.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That is by far one of my favorite scenes in any media ever. It is such an excellent piece of writing, pacing, like ambiance. Everything they're trying to do in that scene is done better than I could have possibly imagined, because it sets the bar for what it's about to do insanely high. And you're like, well, how are they going to do this? And everything they do is perfect for that scene. I can't gush about it enough, and I can't talk about it because you're about the manga. You're supposed to read
You
that.
sound like the crazy person right now. This
It's
is nice.
so good.
Is this how you normally feel?
Yes. So, yeah. I can't recommend it enough if just for that scene alone. And there's a couple of others in the manga that are similarly like, oh my god. In fact, no, crud, there's 2. That manga has 2 moments that are some of my favorite in media. Just like, this is how you do an arc. This is how you do a thing. Like, I can't even talk about them, but they are excellent executions of what the author was intending. Like, perfect. Absolutely perfect. One will be sooner-ish, and one will be near the end. But, just, wow. It's a brutal ride. Like, not gonna lie. Like,
I mean,
it
it's
is...
called Chainsaw Man, and he has
Yeah.
chainsaws coming out of his hands and his forehead. You know, you're gonna get what you expect.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on a lot of dark subject matter as well. Like, I'll just straight up put that out there right now. So if you're like, well, I can handle violence, but not blah. Blah's probably in there. Whatever you thought blah was, it's probably there. I will
That's
say
what
it
came
was
to my head.
mostly
so.
handled well. So, it's so good. That's all I got.
We talked for way longer than I expected, and I'm okay with it. Bye.
And that is the end of Four Heavenly Beasts, day 68. I got 5 hours and 36 minutes of footage. So, depending on how well the next day is, I'm going with 1 to 2 more days. Because there's not very much. And I think the majority of this blob and this blob, this one, is one color. So I'd be able to knock that out pretty quickly. And then there's just not much left after that. So I think we'll be finishing another page soon. I'm going to be spending a lot of my time tomorrow with my family, so I might cross-stitch, I might not. I'm not sure. The last time I didn't have a lot of time. I only got an hour and 36 minutes of footage, so that's not my family's fault, though, so it's fine. Yeah, I don't have anything else to talk about, so like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that jazz, and I'll see you guys next video.